Yes, and he likes to talk. He's back there in the back talking. He hasn't even noticed I'm talking about him yet. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so Kendall Scudder is the newly elected chair of the Texas Democratic Party. After having served as the finance chair, where he pushed for greater financial transparency and strategic investment in Democratic candidates across the state. He is raised in East Texas as a son of a paramedic and a corrections officer. He holds degrees in political science from Sam Houston State and a master's in political management from George Washington University. Scudder is active in civic and community organizations and has made connecting with the working class and underrepresented communities a central priority for the party's leadership. But I am happy that he's here, and I'm mostly happy to call him my friend. Announcing Kendall Scudder.
Before I start, I just want to thank you because even considering running for office is a huge first step. And I know that feeling you have in your gut right now, but the message I'll give you is the same one I just gave someone a second ago. When fascism is knocking at the door, now is not the time for imposter syndrome. So if you are here today because you're trying to figure out if you're going to run, you need to check that shit at the door, okay? That's silly. Having contested primaries in this state is a sign of a healthy party. And so the days of the party stepping in and trying to line people up the way they want them lined up, that's over. You get to decide, and the voters of Texas get to decide who our representatives are going to be. And you taking this first step is the same kind of first step that bartender in the Bronx or in the Queens who stepped up and is now AOC in Congress. This is the first step she took too. So no imposter syndrome allowed. Usually, and a lot of you who I know, I tour around the state, I give speeches a lot, try to get people fired up. That's not the point of me being here today. So I just want to warn you that my discussion with you today is going to be much drier than what you usually get from me, okay? But that's because I don't think you need me to light a fire under your ass. You clearly get it. You're sitting here. My role today is to talk to you about the state party, what its role is in relation to candidates, what expectations should be there, and answer any questions with the time we have left of what that looks like. Again, very dry. But I'm a firm believer that part of the disconnect between candidates and the party has been a lack of realistic level setting on what those expectations are, what you should be able to expect, and what you shouldn't be able to expect. And if you as a candidate know that up front, it makes it easier for you to plan long-term on what you're doing. So not everything I say is going to make you happy, but what I'm here to do is just to be honest with you, and I want to answer any questions that you might have about the process moving forward. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so let me start with what a party is. A lot of people have an idea of what a political party is. They think, okay, well, those are the folks who control the messaging, they put the campaigns together, they get folks elected. But in reality, the party is created in tax code. That's weird. But what we essentially are as a party is a mechanism for people to have the opportunity to raise money for different purposes. So who here, by show of hands, is eyeballing a federal race? Okay. Show of hands eyeballing a state race. Show of hands eyeballing a judicial race. Okay, not many of those. We got to work on that. Show of hands on a nonpartisan. Okay. So those are kind of different classifications that we have for folks, and they have different donation and compliance regulations related to them. What the superpower of the party is our ability to coordinate with all of those people at once. A lot of organizations, PACs, C4, C3s, don't have that same ability. So that is a huge piece for us, is our ability to do that. We separate our money into 3 different buckets. And I promise you, I'm just giving you a preface so we can level set on the discussion. We set our money into 3 different buckets. Now, we got a lot of bank accounts, but there's kind of 3 general buckets we put money in. We have corporate money, because that's one thing that's unique for us that you can't do, is we can take corporate money as a party. There's huge regulations on that. We can take state money, and we can take federal money. 3 different buckets. Who here would like to guess, if I'm getting $1,000 into each of those buckets, which bucket is the least valuable dollar? It's actually, for us, a corporate dollar. Because a corporate dollar, we're very restricted on what we're able to spend money on, right? We can only spend it on admin things that don't have to do with political stuff. So I can't take corporate dollars and go run ads. I can take corporate dollars and pay rent. I can take corporate dollars and run a convention, right? But I can't take corporate dollars and go and put a bunch of TV up, okay? The second least valuable dollar that we would have is a state dollar, because a state dollar can help cover any of those corporate things that we need, any admin costs, but cannot cover anything related to federal candidates, okay? So if I raise a bunch of state money and I have a bunch of stuff I want to do to help get members of Congress or people running for Senate elected, I don't have the ability to take that state money and do that to be helpful, okay? There's a lot of complexities to it, but I think that's a good 50,000 for you. And then my most valuable dollar I have is a federal dollar, because a federal dollar can help any of those buckets that we have across the board. I tell you that to let you know that another unique role that we have as a party is that we are the only entity that's able to convert a state dollar into a federal dollar. So I'll take an example. Let's say you ran last cycle for the state house and you raised $1 million and you only spent $800,000 of it. So you got $200,000 sitting in your state bank account. We're the only entity that has the ability to take that $200,000 and convert it to being able to spend in federal races if you wanted to run for Congress later. But there's fees associated with it, and it's a really complicated process. My purpose for explaining this to you, even though it is very dry, is that I want you to know that in addition to all the other things that we do as a party, we have a purpose that's in a compliance realm. And we're here to be as helpful to people as we can in that process. So those people who raise their hand on the federal races, if you are in a position where you're trying to raise money and you need some help, reach out to the state party, because we can do things like joint fundraising agreements and things like that to be able to be helpful to you. State candidates don't typically need that because they have limitless ability to raise money in Texas. It's the Wild West, right? But my purpose for telling you these things is to say that is one lane that we occupy as a party. If you're having fundraising that's surpassing your caps or things that we can do to be helpful to you, reach out to us. Joint fundraising agreements is a lane that we can be helpful in those endeavors. The other lane that we operate in is one that you all, if you are not familiar with it, you're about to be, and that's primary administration and candidate filing. So if you're in a district that goes over a county line, then I am the chief primary administrator for your race. And that means I love all my Democrats equally, okay? I often have people reaching out to me saying, hey, I want to take a meeting. I'd love to earn your support. I just want you to know it is nothing personal. When I tell you I can't support you, it's nothing personal if I tell you I just really can't take that meeting at the moment, because I have a lot going on in the state and I just can't involve myself in your primaries legally, right? Now, we know historically the Democratic Party has a pretty sordid history of picking some favorites. That's over, okay? I campaigned getting elected that this is your party, not mine. But a consequence of that is sometimes I can't be as helpful to you because I'm a referee calling balls and strikes, okay? So that's one piece. Now, once you become the nominee for the party, let's say you've won your election, let's say you were the only one that filed, let's say you just won the runoff, and you're now the nominee. At that point, we bear hug our Democrats and we move forward with a coordinated campaign, okay? And let me tell you where things will be different now than they have been in the past. This chairman of the Texas Democratic Party does not believe that previous elections vote. This chairman of the Texas Democratic Party does not believe that polls vote. People do. And you as a candidate are working your ass off in every corner of this state. We have an obligation to support our candidates in every corner of this state, not just in the places that have traditionally been viewed as power spots for the party. So the coordinated campaign that you see will ideally loop in as many people from every corner of the state that we possibly can to figure out how we can move the needle together, okay? In that effort, I am going to make mistakes. This is my first election as chairman, and it's very complicated. In case you couldn't tell from the very boring first part of this discussion, I'm learning how it all works and operates, and I'm going to make some mistakes. Know that it is always my intention to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and that we are contesting and showing up everywhere we possibly can. It's not personal if I make mistakes. I'm just a volunteer working really hard trying to get as much done as I possibly can. So, last item that I want to say as the chairman of the party to candidates before I open up for questions that you have and how it relates to you. Personal opinion coming from the newly elected chair of this party. I better not hear a single one of our candidates going across this state talking about how you're going to preserve Social Security. You're going to talk about how we're going to expand Social Security. You're not going to talk about what we're going to do to make sure you see a doctor when you're sick. You're going to talk about how people get to see a doctor before they're sick. We are a party of big, bold, progressive ideas that will take on whatever billionaire and whatever banker we have to make sure that the little guy gets his fair shake. So make no mistake about who you are in this campaign. Stand on business. And then when you win those elections, you better fucking deliver for those people that you made promises for. I grew up in a farm family in East Texas, and my parents didn't vote. They had me as teenagers, okay? That wasn't a thing. But when I was a kid, I asked my mom, because I heard on the news, it's like, what's a Democrat, what's a Republican? I was hearing them talking about Bill Clinton on the news, okay? I was born in 1990. And my mother said to me, well, Democrats are for the little people, Republicans are for corporations, we're Democrats. A woman that didn't even vote knew that inherently we are Democrats. That is who we are in East Texas. We are poor farmers. We are Democrats. That was not the case simply because they owed anything to us. It was because we earned that reputation with them. We pushed things like clean water and rural electrification and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, reducing poverty in this country by 75% and earned the support of those people. But over the last few years, our party has failed to provide those types of bold ideas that earn support from those people. They have a right to be skeptical of us when we fail to deliver. So, your obligation as a candidate is to paint a vision of what it means and what it looks like to have democratic government. Not paint a vision for what it means and what it looks like to have a Republican government. You have to point out what the faults are and move forward with what we could deliver. A lot of people aren't going to buy what you're selling because they've been sold a false bill of goods for a long time. Okay? However, we, in painting that picture, can get the votes to win. And if we deliver, we will be back to a position where we have earned the support of folks. Back in the days when we controlled supermajorities in both chambers of chambers of Congress, back when we had a supermajority of state governors, that was when we were an unapologetically progressive party on behalf of working people. And that is the fourth message that I wanted to deliver for you today, is that as the chairman of the party, that is what our messaging will be. And I hope that you as a candidate will be aligned with that messaging as we move forward. So with that being said, I don't know how close I am on time, but I would like to rapid fire answer as many questions as I can from candidates about what we at the party. Yes, ma'am. One of my favorite State Board of Education candidates. Well, I mean, I think that it is completely aligned with the idea that we fight to make sure working class people get a fair shake, right? My granddaddy was the first person in our family that could read or write. And he walked to schools on cattle paths and alternated the days he'd go because he and his brother shared a pair of boots. If we didn't have public schools, my granddaddy wouldn't have been able to read or write, and I wouldn't be the chairman of the Texas Democratic Party, right? So, my purpose of that is that public schools are the single greatest tool for upward economic mobility on the globe. I would say probably just above joining a union, which is economically proven to put you in better financial standing in your life. Being able to go to have high quality public education ranks right there with it. Okay. And so it is synonymous with our perspective of fighting for working class people. Any questions? Even if it's in the weeds. Hey, Steve. Okay. Yeah. So let me talk about this. That it is, okay. Think of how big your district you're campaigning is in. Okay. Now picture the state of Texas. This is the fire hose I'm drinking through a little bit. In addition to having every congressional district, every state house district, every state senate district, 254 county-wides that have slates, right? We also have 1,802 municipalities in the state. We have 2,100 ISDs, school districts, and 3,000 special use districts, okay? So we do our best to track what we're able. If you haven't filed on our website to tell us that you are a candidate running, I would recommend doing so because we try to grab it. If I see it on social or people on my team see it on social, we'll send it over and around to try to make sure you get into our master spreadsheet. But if folks haven't reached out to us through formalized mechanisms, it becomes a little hard for us to track all of that, okay? It's just, once you file, we are a filing authority and we know every candidate that has filed. But if you are just out here mulling around thinking about it, or you've launched but not really told us about it, we may not have you on a list. Internally, we do have a candidate recruitment program operating. It's a fine line because I don't want us to play in primaries. I think voters should be able to select those. So we do not recruit in high profile races where we know we will have candidates. We only recruit in down ballots where we have difficult time recruiting candidates, okay? And some of you may be eyeballing a seat like that and we don't know you're running. And so we may have people recruiting and trying to find folks there against you, not realizing it's happening. Know that those mistakes happen. You have to let us know if you're running, right? It's our effort. So every week, ourselves and any partner organizations that want to be a part of it have a candidate recruitment roundtable where we meet in a master spreadsheet and try to fill those out to the best of our ability. It is not a publicly available spreadsheet for obvious strategic reasons, right? I hope we can all understand, like, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just saying, like, we really don't want Republicans having access to all of our internal strategic documents. But we internally are tracking everything that we can and would love assistance if you're running for letting us know. Yes, ma'am. It's a little hot in here. Here's what I'll say. Party officials, and this is me being a party official hack for a second, okay? Party officials are volunteers. I work 18 to 20-hour days with a newborn at my house as a volunteer, okay? I have bills to pay and a wife that's very angry at me. Our county chairs are kind of the same way. They're all volunteers. They are slogging to run a primary, to staff all of these positions. It is very hard. There are legal requirements of what we're all having to do within confines of state law, okay? If your county chair is meeting all of their legal obligations, there's very little that at the state party can do to help with that because they are duly elected by the people in your county. I am not their boss, right? In a way, they're my boss because I'm elected by you and them, right? So, like, I will intervene from time to time to try to broker agreements as kind of a non-partial party, because I genuinely just don't give a shit about your interpersonal fighting. I just don't. Like, we're all in a team moving in the same direction trying to win elections. And so, like, I'll come in as an intermediary sometimes, but I have no authority to say you have to do this, you have to do that. And if I did, you should get rid of me, because legally I can't. So what we can do to try to be helpful in a weird situation that you're in, um, after you get through the primary, or once candidate filing starts, we will be doing our own candidate training stuff. Wanted to be able to coordinate. I've talked to Nancy about this a little bit. This weekend, we had our state Democratic Executive Committee meeting. It wasn't an effort to not coordinate today, but more of, we have some real boring shit to talk to you about, right? And so we'll have our own training to try to work through with you. Um, I inherited a tough situation at the party. I'm going to be kind, and I'm going to be gracious and leave it there. You're familiar with what I've inherited to try to get dealt with. As we're structuring and trying to get this sucker back on track, once we're getting more stable, you will see we will have, I promise you, we will have a staff member at the party whose title is Candidate and Elected Services. Their job will be your point person to reach out to, okay? In a world where we are able to raise more resources, they might have help. But right now, I can promise, I'm not going to make promises to you I can't keep, and I will promise you, you're going to get at least one. That's going to be your point person. I know a lot of you text and call me, and that's fine. I drop a lot more balls than they would. And that can help you in some of figuring out what tools we have. Like, we have Campaign in a Box available in our training portal. We have some unique tools that can help you. And we used to have a program called Project Lift where we would train candidates that are running to try to build the bench. It went defunct. We're going to bring that back. That's another promise I can make for you, is that we're going to bring that back. But I honestly am kind of trying to get my footing, and it's just not in place yet. But I promise you, before our primary comes, you're going to have those things in place. Yes, sir. Hey, thanks. Thank you. I've got you on my calendar. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, ma'am. txdemocrats.org or texasdemocrats.org. There, you'll be able to find the mechanism for you to register for us. I think it's like, are you interested in running for office? Sign up here, or something like that. That gives us info. Now, we've had, I think, about 2,800 people that have filled that out, and the team has tried to go through and figure it out. Now, we, at the TDP, we're not sitting on piles of cash. I'll give you this contextual point before I turn this over, but we have 1,500 people in the entire state of Texas giving monthly out of 6 million people that voted for Joe Biden. Okay. You're looking at a state party that when I came in, we're averaging about $25,000 a month to run the entire staff. So you're looking right now at a staff of less than 10 people. It is not some giant mechanism that is handing money out everywhere. We have doubled our sustaining member program since I've come in. I would like to double that, right? And I'd like to keep growing. We've raised more money since I've become chair than we typically raise in an off cycle, okay, for a whole year. So I'm feeling good about where we're getting. We're just not there yet. It's taking me a little bit of time. But so have some patience with this if you reach out there. We're trying to get through all 2,800 of those people. They should have, I think, at this point gotten 2,801. 2,801. Okay. Any other items? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay. I know he's in a hurry because he's going to Longview for the SDC meeting. So only a couple questions. Who has a question?
I know Jenny had her hand up. I want to
Okay.
make sure we.
What could candidates potentially expect in way of support this year? And also, how can we support the party?
Yeah.
We ask a lot of y'all. Besides donating, we know that is certainly something that's very important, but how can we support this new vision that it sounds like we all really love? How can we support?
Well,
this?
let me take the first piece of that of what you can expect. The biggest misconception I have seen with new candidates is a misconception that parties fund candidates. So I just want to make very clear, you will not be receiving financial assistance from the party. I just don't want you to have expectation for it, okay? There is no state party, Democrat or Republican in the country, that funds candidates, okay? You will sometimes see them on finance reports. It has to do with the financial compliance stuff we talked about at the beginning, where we'll operate as a pass-through to be helpful sometimes. But I just want to make very clear, just so that there is no inaccuracies here, okay? Each campaign is expected to do their role. And the reason is because we have to get to a spot in Texas where everyone knows their role. Right now, everybody's stepping on each other's foot. Everybody's in charge. Nobody's in charge. That's a real problem. Your job as a candidate is to work on persuasion. I cannot go get Republicans to vote for you. They don't like me, okay? But you can. My job is to make sure Democrats show up to vote, okay? There were 1.1 million Democrats who voted in 2020 that stayed home in 2024. We have treated our base like shit, and they have completely written us off because we negotiate away the things that are important to them. Okay? So you may have seen me standing very firmly on the economic populist left, because that is ideologically where I am, is where I believe the party should be standing. And so what you can expect from us is to be working within our coordinated campaign to turn Democrats out to vote. I'm not here to work on your Republicans. I'm not here. My job is to say, Democrats, show up to vote. Here's how you do it. How do we get you doing it? I could go on for a very long time about how that works, but I'll spare you. We'll talk about it in our candidate training. You can see us working in that lane of the coordinated so that you have the freedom to work the lane you need to work in order to win your race.
Okay, one more question, and then we're going to let Kendall go. So anyone else have a question?
I answered them all.
No?
Okay, let me wrap. So grateful to each of you for the sacrifice you and your family are making to do this. I have done it before. I have lost jobs and relationships over running for office. I know it is very tough. I am grateful for you stepping up. And if you had never been told that before, if you are a previous candidate who the party never said that to you, you have the state party chairman standing in front of you right now thanking you for your service to the party. It is hugely grateful. Hugely grateful.
I want us to show Kendall how many candidates are in the room. So if you're a candidate, raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands raised. If you are on a campaign and a campaign manager, or you are helping out a campaign, raise your hand. Keep them raised. If you are a precinct chair, raise your hand. Keep them raised. If you are a county chair, raise your hand. Okay. If you are a crazy volunteer, raise your hand. All right. You guys are awesome. So we have a great group.
And this party only functions because of you. Don't let anyone tell you that locking yourself in a room and begging for money is going to win your election. The way you're going to win your election is getting out in your neighborhood, knocking on doors, and talking to people about how you will take on whatever billionaire, whatever banker, whatever bootlicking bastard you have to make sure that they get a fair seat at the table and aren't stuck groveling for crumbs. Thank you.
Okay. All right.